Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
American Wedding, the third film in the American Pie franchise, I guess you could say. The 4 films of the main franchise, which I've been reviewing each week, each Friday, or each Wednesday. And there's some spin-off ones, but I'm not going to get into those. Maybe at another time, but I'm only going to do the first 4. So this is the third of the franchise. This one finds our characters just after college. So the first one was senior year, graduation, prom. The second one was the first year, the end of the first year of college, their freshman year of college, and now they are graduated. Now we find Jim and Michelle at a dinner, and as all American Pie movies have started, leads to an awkward sexual situation, generally involving Jim's parents. In the first one, it's Jim masturbating to scrambled porn with a sock over his dick and his mom coming in, and then unable to turn the volume off, his dad comes in. Super embarrassing, which so many of Jim's situations in these movies are just the most embarrassing moments that can happen where everything goes wrong. And in this one, Jim is at a restaurant with Michelle, the band geek, who they, at the end of the last episode, realize that they are the best for each other. And Jim is going to propose. And he's trying to nonchalantly get her to look underneath her napkin where the ring is supposed to be. The case for the ring is, anyway. Gets a call from his dad. Dad's like, hey, I've got the ring. It's not in the box. I'm bringing it to you now. Right? Dad to save the day. The good old dad, the good old reliable Eugene Levy, Jim's dad. One of the like, there are some superstars that superstar kind of a big word, but there's some big heavy hitter comedic wise actors. That's even too much. There's some really fun characters in this, and Jim's dad is one of them. Obviously, Jim being the other one, and Stifler being the third. But Jim's dad is showing up with the ring. Michelle mistaking Jim's nonchalant advice to try and get her to look under the napkin. She thinks that he wants a blowjob in the restaurant, which brings us to the awkward sexual part of the movie, the intro to the movie, where she is under the table giving him a blowjob when his dad shows up with the ring. And Jim is simultaneously trying to not let his dad know that he's getting head, while also trying not to let his dad spoil the fact that he's about to propose to Michelle, which is a funny scene. Jim ends up being pulled away from the table by his dad, exposing the fact that his pants are down around his ankles, which, logistically, if you're getting a blowjob under a table at a restaurant, you're not going to be taking your pants all the way down. That is why they invented a fly, specifically for blowjobs under a table. That is why pants and underwear have openings for the penis. It is not for urination. Some may think that. No, it is designed specifically for blowjobs under a table at a restaurant. So, not necessarily for while you're also simultaneously about to propose. That isn't necessarily the intent of the open fly situation, but the blowjob is clearly the only reason. Obviously there's the other reasons of being able to pee very easily for men standing up, but blowjob's the number one. Jim's pulled away from the table, pants down around his ankles. The whole restaurant sees, but that doesn't stop Jim. Jim's used to embarrassment at this point. He's existed in sexual embarrassment for now 2 movies, and now starting a third. He knows what he's doing. So he proposes to her right there. Beautiful scene. Beautiful way to start the movie. But this is in some ways a more mature movie. You have less of the characters. All of the female characters aside from Michelle, played by Allison Hannigan, and the MILF, I think are the only two reoccurring characters to come back for this movie. Of course, her name's not there, easily accessible. But all the other ones are gone, including to that list of characters that are not in this film is Oz. Chris Klein, nowhere to be found. Very good, I guess. Somebody, either he wasn't able to be in this, or they're like, we don't need him. But even Kevin, the other horrible person, not horrible as in he's like a bad person, but just not a good actor, he is still in this, but is given very few lines. It is very interesting, very weird, Kevin's inclusion in this film. Because he's there. He's in these scenes with him, and Finch is still around, obviously. It's almost a trio of the dudes. And Kevin's just kind of sitting there most of the time. Maybe he'll have a word here or there, but he has very few lines in this entire movie. He has nothing. There is no story part of his character at all. Versus the fact, Jim, obviously, big storyline in this. Stifler, also big storyline in this. Finch, not as big, but a rivalry. The rivalry with Stifler again, and the twist of that rivalry is in this movie. So there's aspects of this movie that I enjoyed quite a bit more because they cut out some of the dead weight, a little bit more mature. There's aspects that are still not that great, that don't quite hold up. But obviously, it's still kind of a raunchy comedy. So it still has that raunchy comediness, but it's definitely grown up. And even the soundtrack has grown up a little bit. It was very cheesy at first, then it was more pop-punky, and now it's a little bit more just alternative rock. But I still enjoyed the soundtrack. And I think the soundtrack for each one of the movies gets better and better. And also just kind of, it mimicked in a lot of ways my musical taste for all these movies. Now, this movie came out in where are we at here? 2003. So 2 years after the last one. I think 2001 was the second one. And I've not seen the fourth film yet, The Reunion. So looking forward to seeing how that ends. And I would imagine Oz Striker's back. I imagine Kevin is back. I wonder if the other female actors are back, Tara Reid and the other one that I constantly forget her name from American Beauty. But this one's all about the wedding. And it's, it's that generic wedding trope that movies or even TV shows have, where it's like the bride is like, this is her dream come true, which doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, fit with Michelle the band geek. Like, the person who is super sexually open and not really tied down to societal pressures to be a certain way doesn't seem like somebody that would be super into a giant wedding, but she is. So this movie in a lot of ways takes on those standard marriage trope things. You have Jim wanting to make the perfect wedding for her, not going to invite Stifler, obviously, because he's always somebody who ruins things. But of course, he ends up getting tangled in to the whole mishmash of everything anyway, which is kind of an interesting way he did that. Like, the gags in this movie are funny. Like, there's definitely funny moments in this movie, a lot of funny moments, a lot of funny things that happen, a lot of funny scenes. But how all those things are tied together, the overall story, that kind of the connective tissue that ties all of those different gags together, I don't think was very good. So Jim wanting to be, give Michelle this perfect wedding. He used to be super self-conscious about his performance in bed, his sexual performance. That was, in the first two movies, a constant stress for him, which is something, as a young man, was very stressful for me too, before I realized, there's very little control. It's like, do your best. Try your best, and things happen. They happen. Hopefully you're with somebody that's caring and not a jerk. The Many Faces is an ongoing abstract ink portrait series that I started many years ago. I release a new face every day, but go to inspireddisorder.com to check them out. So many available. But as a listener to The Ray Taylor Show, you can save 10% when you use coupon code INSPIRED when you check out. So go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF, that stands for The Many Faces. Go check them out, browse the entire collection, and when you decide on a piece, or maybe multiple pieces, make sure you use coupon code INSPIRED when you check out, and you'll save 10%. As a big thank you for checking out my work, for collecting my work, and for listening to The Ray Taylor Show. And with that said, let's get back to the show. But now his big stress, his big anxiety is dancing. Right? So like that premise is weak. For the wedding type of storyline trope, it kind of makes sense, the fear of having to dance, but who's like, really, that's your big, I don't want to look like an idiot on the dance floor. Meanwhile, during his proposal, he was pantsless. Maybe he pulled his pants up before he proposed. He probably did. But like, he showed the restaurant his dick before proposing. That wasn't. But now, like, being around a bunch of people you know who love you, it's you don't want to be embarrassed being dancing badly. But it leads to funny things, like the fact that he is scared of dancing leads to the fact that Stifler gets roped in, because apparently Stifler had been forced to take dancing lessons as a kid. Doesn't make any sense, but whatever. It leads to the fact that Stifler is now roped in, despite the fact that people don't want him in, but now Jim has to kind of bring him in because he's going to help Jim learn how to dance, which is good. Because Stifler, a huge comedic aspect of this movie. Jim and Stifler, Stifler is probably the funniest, the wackiest kind of comedic guy. And also the one character that is still, like, steeped in adolescent immaturity. Like, all of his stuff is very, immature, comedic, gag shit. But that's the charm of Stifler. That is the thing that this movie is showing. This movie is showing the arc, the maturity of Stifler. Only by a degree, but at least it's a small change in Stifler becoming more mature. So Stifler teaching Jim to do it. There's gags of course, there's a house party scene in every one of these movies at the beginning where everybody's like at a party together. And, in the first movie, Stifler drinking the beer of cum that has cum in it. Then the second one is being pissed on by the MILF guy, John Cho. And in this one, MILF guy's still there along with the other guy. I don't know the white guy's name, but John Cho's there. At this party, this house party that is actually an engagement party. So it's not your raging party of high school or college kids. It is a bunch of adults. So it's not the same vibe. It's a very much more mature house party vibe in this one than the first one. However, the MILF dude and other dude are still there at this party, kind of confused why they're even there. Stifler pulls up in he's works for a school, apparently drives up in a school bus because he finds out he wasn't invited to this house party, which he thinks is a graduation party. Instead, it's the engagement party, which is funny. You have this ridiculous gag where the parents of Michelle, which Jim has never met, this is the first time for him meeting, they show up to the party, and they have two dogs, and there's this scene where by whatever happenstance, events things happen, Jim and Stifler and these two dogs end up in positions that when the people of the party open the door into the kitchen area, which I believe is where this is taking place, you have what appears to be Jim and Stifler having an orgy with these parties, having a little foursome with these dogs, with these parties, with these dogs, right? You have Stifler accidentally got cake on his crotch, so one of the dogs is licking the cake off of his crotch. Meanwhile, Jim is trying to pull that dog off of Stifler. Meanwhile, the other dog, I think, is just humping Jim's leg. But when you open the door, looks like Jim is taking the dog from behind. Meanwhile, the dog looks like an Eiffel Tower situation almost. Which is just kind of funny that, like, of course, Jim gets into these situations where it's really embarrassing, and yet still dancing in front of people is what the most embarrassing thing is. So there's funny bits like that just don't make sense and like why that happened, but whatever. It's just funny bits, ridiculous bits, whatever. He's got to get this dress, right? He's got to get this dress by a certain designer, so they go out. They end up in this gay bar because, like, their efforts, the designer isn't there, so they end up going to this gay bar instead. And Stifler doesn't know it's a gay bar, so there's this whole thing with, like, this trans woman kind of hitting on Stifler. And, of course, Stifler, because he's immature, also homophobic, you know, all of the things that would be like this privileged white guy immaturity in a gay bar. But then it turns into funny. It turns into like a dance-off where Stifler's like offended that he's like assumes that everybody wants to fuck him, right? Because that's just general default Stifler. Everywhere he goes, man or woman, everybody wants to fuck him because that's just how his ego has grown throughout the years as this immature douchebag. But because of his ego, he cannot let it stand that these men are not attracted to him. And starts this dance battle. Because, of course, Stifler has all this dance training. So he's like, I'm going to show these dudes. I'm going to show these dudes how attractive I am. And I want to be preyed upon. So it's a funny bit. Another funny bit of him getting in this dance battle with this guy named Bear. And, of course, after the dance battle, one of the guys that's there is like, oh, you guys are awesome. I'm actually the designer that has like a female name. But, of course, I'm a man and I'm at a gay bar. So it's like, I'm the designer guy. So I'll design your dress. So everything works out. Like that's kind of like a funny gag and then mixed with just kind of like lazy writing to make it all fit back together. And, of course, the dude is, like, interested in Kevin. It's, like, one of the few times Kevin, like, says a line. Like, oh, hi. So he's, of course, gets the thing. And also Bear runs a stripper service. Strippers work for him. He's, like, the you know, their security guy while they go do their private parties, whatever. So now they have strippers for this bachelor party that they want to throw for Jim, which is one of the few things that Stifler is excited about that also Finch is excited about. It's one of the few things where both of those guys are on the same page. Both of those guys, Stifler and Finch, are excited about the bachelor party, which the bachelor party, probably one of the least funny gags in the whole movie. Because, like, they just show up and it's like Jim's not even there. And then, like, the parents of Michelle show up, and it's all this kind of thing to try and shuffle everything around and convince the parents that those aren't strippers and all this. Not very good. Like, kind of one of the weakest gags. As far as the gags go in this movie, one of the weaker of the gags is the bachelor party whole spiel, the whole thing. Then, of course, so another aspect to this movie, aside from like the gags that happen, is the fact that Michelle's sister comes to town for the wedding, and newly broken up, single, and of course, Finch has a thing for this new girl, right? For Michelle's sister. Also, Stifler does. So now you see these two guys compete because women are only trophies to be competed for. They're not actual humans in this raunchy comedy universe. Stifler and Shitbrick, Finch, are now battling. And Stifler, it's almost like a body swap movie, where now Stifler is acting like a polite gentleman, completely off-brand for him. And Finch is acting like Stifler. Finch is acting like a douchebag bro. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. So it's funny to see in a lot of ways all the same kind of humor you would get out of a body swap movie, but within the context of this movie. So you're seeing Finch being like, and they're both trying to vie, and she likes both of them for both of their reasons why. Obviously, she ends up going with Stifler a little bit more because he begins to crack, and she's like, ooh, he has more dimension than just being a nice guy. He's got a little bit of an edge to him. So much so that the parents of Michelle and the sister trust Stifler with the grandmother's ring, which is the ring that Jim is going to give. So Jim didn't have to buy a wedding ring for, or maybe it's the I don't know. There is because there's two rings, and the actual wedding band was the grandmother's. So, and they didn't know. Jim didn't really appoint either Kevin or Finch as the best man. So when the parents show up, it's kind of up in the air who's going to be the best man. And it was they left it up to Michelle's parents to decide. So they decide Stifler is the man because he's pretending he's being the most polite gentleman. It worked out for him. But of course, Stifler being Stifler screws things up and leads to one of the funniest gags, I think, in this entire movie is Stifler is feeding the dogs, right? Feeding the dogs treats. It's his job to watch the dogs while whatever's going on. The parents are doing something else. And he accidentally, the ring that was just loose in his pocket, no case, no nothing, no ring box, just loose in his pocket with the treats, ends up getting stuck to one of the treats. The dog eats the treats, and now Jim is like, oh, I gotta wait for this dog to shit. This dog shits faster than any dog shits ever. Like usually it takes, 12 hours for a dog to shit whatever they ate. Maybe longer. Probably depends on the dog. But it's like pretty instantly Jim or Finch or Stifler's waiting for this dog to shit out this ring. And finally the dog does, and he picks it up. He's like eating chocolates while he's waiting for this dog to shit, which is just kind of a funny scene of him sitting on the bench eating chocolates, like, let's get it going, dog. Let's get this shit going. And then he ends up picking up the shit with one of the wrappers, one of the chocolate wrappers. And then later on, when he's trying to get the ring out of the shit, Michelle's parents see, and then bad writing again. They're like so forward about getting that chocolate. Like this woman, Michelle's mom, needs to get that chocolate more than anything in the world. Which wouldn't make sense in any movie anywhere why somebody would be acting like this unless they're the most privileged, like, I get whatever I want and nobody says no to me. It's kind of which on some level I could see the parents being like that. They are a bit snooty or whatever. But she wants this chocolate, and Stifler's like trying not to let her take it. And when she goes to eat it and goes to grab it, he ends up just grabbing it back real quick and shoving it in his mouth. Hilarious, because they never noticed it was shit, which doesn't make any sense. But as the audience, we know, and we know that Stifler just ate some shit, and it's funny. It is funny, just like his performance, because the parents, they like want to know what it tastes like and try and break it down like a sommelier of chocolate. And Stifler's just like trying to choke it down. Well, not trying to swallow it because he doesn't want to swallow the ring, but and also swallow the shit. It's a hilarious bit. Probably one of the funniest bits of the whole movie. The only bit that I really remembered going into this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one where he eats the shit. Such a funny scene. Such a funny scene. But yeah, we see Stifler. Overall, we see Stifler grow, which is nice. There's some redemption to Stifler. Because even when he messes up, there's another time where he messes up and he like ruins all the flowers for the wedding. And Stifler's like, I am not going to let this ruin the wedding. Like, you see Stifler like really take responsibility for his actions, probably for the first time ever. And he gets his old football crew to help out, and they all team up. You know, it's that last minute thing where, everything's going to be a failure. And then last minute, everybody comes together to make this thing happen. And that's what his whole football, all the high school kids come together to help Stifler out as a coach. And it's heartwarming. It's heartwarming to have some kind of redemption for Stifler, this character that's been a horrible person. It's not like he's not a horrible person, but you definitely, out of all the characters, you see him grow and mature. I mean, you see the other ones grow and mature, but not within one of the films. So in a lot of ways, this is Sean William Scott's, and I think he was kind of emerging as one of the bigger stars to come out of this whole franchise. And of course, this movie is not without its really cheesy green screen bro huddle moment. Right? In the last movie, it was everybody huddling together on the beach of the lake, which looked, I mean, it may not have been green screen, but it looked like green screen. And in this one, it's the moment where Jim gets everybody together to just like thank them for all being there. And it's like a super cheesy, super green screened moment. So it's weird how it's not weird, but it's kind of fun to see all of the different structural parts of the movies kind of play out, right? Like there's each one of these movies so far starts with like a sexual awkwardness with Jim. And then there's a house party thing where, and Stifler ends up being the butt of the joke. In this one, he ends up being, part of a dog orgy with Jim. And Jim kind of looks like a fool in that as well. But it's like a house party moment. Then there's like, the thing where it's like, oh, I got to get over this anxiety that I'm going to have. I've got like this goal to accomplish at the end of this thing. And it all seems like it's falling apart, but in the end, it all comes back together. And then there's that, then they have the bro huddle, green screen bro huddle. So all these like structural similarities between the movies, where this one definitely felt like more of a mature take on everything. Everybody's older now. So it'll be interesting to see how much of those elements are in the final film, the American reunion, and to see how of the raunchy comedy aspects of it. Because like the whole raunchy aspects of this one, aside from like the bits being like quote unquote raunchy, like dog orgy and whatever, but there's the bachelor party where it's just like these strippers come in and they're just they're topless or whatever, so you see boobs, but it's like, I don't know, it's such like it was just like a weak scene. It was like a scene where it's like, oh, well, we need boobs. But it wasn't, at no point did it feel like a bachelor party. And at no point did it feel like a bachelor party that these guys would want to have. Like, oh, we're going to hang out at our parents' house and get strippers to come over? That's not cool. it would be way more of a bachelor party if they just went to a strip club. But that wouldn't have allowed for the comedy aspects. So anyway, that's my thoughts on American Wedding. It's got some funny gags. The way it's put together isn't that great. But overall, if I had to rank the 3 movies, man, there's some big advantages and disadvantages of each one. I think they all have really funny gags, but then there's some mediocrity. I don't know. That would be tough. I'm not going to rank them. Maybe at the end. Maybe at the end I'll rank them and try to rank them. It's tough though, because there's some. It's really like having to balance out what out of the bad parts of these movies, which one has more bad parts versus like how do they weigh out which one's. I don't know. But anyway, check it out if you haven't watched them in general. It's kind of been fun for me to go back, a little time warp, time travel, go back and watch American Wedding. But yeah, that's it. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.